like to call the meeting to order at 7:30. Herb, would you do the minutes for us? Sure. I'll do the roll call. Simons here. Freehand, absent. Boda, absent. Basalis,
Here.
Horn, absent. Babel,
Here.
Blackstock.
Here.
We have enough for a quorum. Would you follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to the approval of the agenda, is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? Cindy, did you have something you wanted to add to it?
I can't add things, but you can.
Oh.
Did you receive that?
Yeah, what was I adding?
Did you
Refresh my memory.
need copies of that?
The what?
Did you need copies of that?
Yeah, I didn't make copies of it.
Clerk election pay?
The what?
Clerk election pay?
Yes, that's what we wanted to add, yeah. Election pay, that'll be under new business, item 6.
I'm gonna excuse myself to make copies.
Okay, is there any other additions or deletions to the agenda with the one that I put on there? If not, a motion to accept the agenda with the,
Larry, the sheet that you gave us, is this being added to the agenda, or is this just?
no,
an
that's
FYI?
just nice to know
Okay,
information.
got it.
So a motion would be in order to accept the agenda with the addition of item 6 under new business.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda by adding number 6, the clerk election pay.
I support.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the approval of the minutes of August 3, 2020. They're in your packet. If there's no additions or corrections, a motion to accept the minutes would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 3rd, 2020 as presented.
I support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we approve the minutes of August 3, 2020. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to talk about anything that's not on the agenda? Okay. Did you have something you want?
Yes.
Then you'll have to go to the podium. Just go up there and state your name and where you live and tell us what's on your mind.
I'm Fern Lott, and I live
I'm
in
sorry, could you spell
Diamond
your last
Cove.
name?
Excuse me?
Could you spell your last name, please?
Lott. And I'm here to explain why I use so much water my last term, and I do apologize for that. But my washer overflowed, did $37,000 worth of damage to my home. We couldn't catch it. I couldn't catch it in time to turn the valves off. I was just beside myself to see all this water coming out of my wash machine and going down through my house. And like I said, I've got the company that's doing the damage, or doing the work. He still hasn't done it yet, but I'm still waiting for for him to come. And I just want to apologize for using it. I couldn't do any, I just couldn't do anything about it at the time.
I just have one question when I was reading.
Yes.
I don't have it in front of me right now,
Yes.
but.
That was last month on, last month's agenda.
Yes, I remember that. And the only question I had was,
Yes.
there was one place, and I don't know exactly how it went, but there was, it sounded like it leaked from the top onto the cupboards and it leaked from the bottom. So, I mean, and I was trying to figure out, how can the water leak up and down? I mean, did it
had
just
my-
leak down on everything, or?
Yeah, I have my house is 3-story, and my wash machine sits in the middle, in the second story, and it went down through it covered the majority of the, I've got my diagrams here if you want to see them. Would you like to see them?
Yeah, I would just like to see, because I'm just trying, again, like I said,
Okay.
I was just trying to
Okay.
figure out how the water would go up and down, and
Oh,
that was
no,
my
no,
only
it didn't.
question.
It just went from the second floor down.
Second floor
It did-
down.
It did all of the damage on the second floor. All my hardwood has been torn up. And then it went down through into the basement, and all my carpeting and everything down there was soaked. The ceiling tile and everything was all fell down. It's a big mess. And they had to do painting. They had to do $37,000 worth of damage.
So it dripped down for 2 floors, is what you're saying? It went
Yes,
down
I'm
2
saying that,
floors?
yes,
Then where'd it go? Where'd the water go?
It just settled. We finally got the
Leaked
shop.
out the house or in the drains, or where did the water go?
We used the shop back of it, shop back as much as we could.
You shot backed it all up?
No, we didn't shop,
No.
no, it had gotten ahead of me.
I
And
mean, we're talking many thousands of gallons here, right?
Oh, definitely.
I don't have the bill in front of me right now,
Okay,
but
it
I
was-
knew it was a rather
well-
large amount.
I'm not complaining, but my bill was a little over $2,000. And I just don't know how to explain it. I mean, if you want to see my diagrams, from what the construction people are doing and what they have done, or I'm living on plyboard right now. I mean, they've taken up all my,
Well, our normal procedure on that, Ms. Lott, is when something like that happens and you come in and you talk to the water department, I think we notified you that you had a high,
yes, you did.
that sends like an alarm off when they're going through the
I
building.
understand
And
that,
they
yes.
called you.
Yes,
And I don't know if you responded or not. I don't think you did.
Maybe not, I don't know.
Then the other part, the procedure is we like to have our DPW person come in and check and see, did that water that came out of your washer, did it go down into your floor drains and go into our sewers? Or did it run out and go into the river? Did it run out and go in the driveway and go down to the street? These are the things that we don't know.
Understand.
And kind of
Understand.
what this board has done in the past
Yeah.
is have our DPW supervisor look at it.
Okay.
But we didn't know about any of this until your whole situation was taken care of. It was all, everything was repaired at
No,
$36,000?
No, it's not repaired, sir. It's not repaired.
Oh,
They've not done a thing. I'm living on plyboard.
You what?
I'm living on plyboard in my
Oh,
second
wow.
floor. And they took all the tile up in the bathroom, or, excuse me, not in the bathroom, in the laundry room, all the laundry, the asphalt tiles, all up out there. It went up the walls, the water went up the walls. They had to repaint, and then they took out all the hardwood floor in the hallway and in the foyer and in the downstairs, or in the,
Well, I think that's what personally, that's what I'd like to do, is send our DPW supervisor over there.
You're more
Now
than
that
welcome
we're
to.
letting them go into the houses, I believe, Cindy? I see that email, we're allowing them to go in and check things now?
They are.
With the COVID-19, we weren't doing that, but we're starting to now with the proper PPE.
yeah, you're more
Um,
than welcome to
so
come and see my house.
I would think we would need that information to see, you could explain to him where the leak is, if it's still not all repaired, and to get his opinion. We value that opinion, because we don't go out and look at this.
Okay.
But if your water went through our sewer, you gotta pay for it. But if it didn't go through our sewer, we've worked with everybody on that fact.
I understand that, sir.
We know what went through your meter. I think it was 2,100 hours worth of water, so
Oh,
it's a lot of
yes,
water. It had to go someplace.
Yes, I was
Did it go
shell-shocked.
into the river? Did it go into our drains? And that's what he'll be looking for,
Okay,
you know?
okay, that's fine.
And then I think the board can make a decision on, you know, whether you're gonna get your sewer credits or not.
Okay, I appreciate that, and he can come anytime he wants. I mean, just let me know.
So if you could contact the water department tomorrow and set up some kind of appointment,
Okay, okay,
and we'll pass that along to them.
okay.
Does anybody else have anything? Debbie or Herb? Okay.
Thank
okay.
you, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for coming. Any other public comment? Hearing none. Consent agenda. We have the C1 July 2020 St. Clair Area Fire Authority Run Report. We have the C2 July 2020 Marine City Fire Authority Report. We have C3, the July 2020 Building Department Report. We have C4, Park Commission Special Meeting Minutes of 7/15/2020.
If there are no questions on the consent agenda, I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and a support to accept the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to disbursements, we have invoices of $80,917.48. Accounts payable, $63,567.43. Total payroll of $22.02. Payroll direct deposit, $35,405.53. Payroll EFT payments of $68,144.83. We have a tax account of $290,600.85 for a total disbursement of $538,658.14.
I make a motion that we paid the bills in the amount of $538,658.14.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a support to pay the bills. Is there any further discussion? And the sum is $538,658.14. If there's no further discussion, roll call, please. Could you do that, Herb?
Yep. Supervisor Simons,
Yes.
Trustee Patsalis,
Yes.
Trustee Babel,
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock, yes.
Motion carries. We pay the bills. Moving on to old business, we have none at this time. Next up is new business, the 2020 financial audit report. We have Jamie here to go through that from UBY.
From UHY.
UH.
That's okay. Well, we did change names.
I can't get used to
this
Stuart
year, I
Bowley
know.
and Whipple.
I'm still getting used to it myself. Hi, my name's Jamie Herms. I'm with UHY, and I am here to present the fiscal year 2019 audit. Scott was unavailable to come tonight, so I came in his place to present. So I'll try to do an overview. If anybody's got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. So if you go on to first we start with the table of contents, and then just on page 1 is the independent auditor's report. Township of East China received an unmodified clean opinion. This is the highest opinion that an audit can receive. That is what we're striving for, and that's what East China did receive. And then we turn to page 3. This is the MD&A, Management Discussion and Analysis section. This is prepared. We helped assist the township to prepare this. However, it's really just more of an overview. I'm not going to go into too much detail. This is just really an overview of what's in the basic financials themselves. And just really, it's just kind of really more of the outlook of what the township has going forward for their next fiscal year, 2020. As well as there's just a couple things. One of them is COVID that we're all aware of. That is one big thing. We do not know all of the impacts of and all the and everything. I guess really that is going to happen because of COVID. So we can't estimate everything at this time. Also, there's a couple other things, union negotiations, those were completed, and then also you guys have a couple big projects. DTE has a huge project here that they're working on, and that's kind of the outlook for fiscal year 2020. But if you turn past that, you have the basic financial statements on page 8. This is your statement of net position. This is what the whole township as a whole is in basically what you call the commercial way of looking at the township. It's called full accrual. And really, just kind of going, you had the governmental activities had total assets of $7,792,516. And deferred outflows of resources of $109,000. Total liabilities of $1,954,178.
What page are you on, Jamie?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on page 8.
8? Yeah, we didn't
8.
keep it up.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't.
And the most part of the liabilities is really there's some bonds payables, and then your pension and OPEB liability. OPEB meaning other post-employment benefit. And then we have deferred inflow of resources, which is really some related to pension and OPEB, and then taxes that are levied for the subsequent period. It's just really it's on the balance sheet, but it's recognized at a later date. And then your net position, total net position is $4,027,891. And that is your governmental activities, non-business, basically non-water and sewer activities of East China. Business type activities, total assets, $14,396,452. The majority of that is the capital assets, the water plant, and then the water and the sewer systems. And then a small amount of deferred outflows of resources related to the pension and the OPEB. And then the liabilities. The majority of this is really due to the component unit, the liability of $2 million to the component unit, water and sewer, and really that is for the OPEB and liability for the most part. And then net pension liability and OPEB liability, $495,000, and then $9,000 for OPEB. And then again, deferred inflows of resources, related to pension and OPEB, and then taxes levied for subsequent period of $279,961, and which comes down to total net investment in capital assets, part of our net position, $11,713,208, and there is an unrestricted deficit balance of $486,469 in the water and sewer funds, combined, government, business type wide, which then we have a total column, and that is just combination of your governmental and your business type activities combined. Total assets, 22 million, total liabilities, 4 million, almost 5 million. Deferred inflows, 2 million, which comes down to your total net position of $15,254,630 for the township as a whole. And then over here in the far right column, you'll see the component unit, the Sewer and Water Authority. They do have their own separate audit that UHY does prepare, and there was so this is just basically really a summarized opinion. Since they are a component unit of East China, it does have to be brought into these financial statements as well. So the component unit, the Sewer and Water Authority, as you can see, due from primary government, that's their large asset, $2 million. That is due from the business type of activities, again, primarily for the pension and OPEB. And then we kind of go down. If you see, they have total assets of $3 million, and then the component units, the Water and Sewer Authority, is total liabilities of $3 million, which you can see primarily $2.2 million just for the pension liability. And as you can see, there is no net position. All the revenues and expenses, it is basically, there is no net position there. All the revenues and expenses equal. So that is pretty much the balance sheet statement of net position of East China at 12/31/2019. And if you turn the page to page 9 and 10, this is the statement of activities. This is the government-wide for the year and expenses. And for the primary government, for total primary government of expenses, it was $4,128,696. And we'll go into a little bit more detail later on here. This is just really kind of an overview of that. And then also too for total charges for services was $1 million, almost $2 million, $1,999,726. And then if you come down here on page 10, you'll see the total property tax revenue was $1.7 million. And then grants and contributions not restricted was $451,000. And then transfers up $164,000. You can see that that agrees to your business type activities over in the other column. So we had a total change in net position of the governmental activities for the year of $573,809, and the business type activities had a decrease in net position of $64,807 for the year in total. And a lot of those primary factors really a lot have to do with pension and OPEB. They fluctuate, especially the way that the markets are. You know, the markets go up, it goes down. You know, at 12/31, the markets were really good at 12/31. And then if we would have had to issue at 3/31, it would have looked a little different. So it's just kind of always a moving target at that. Lately, it seems like in the last year. So, and then if you go to page 11, now this is primarily what the township operates off of, the fund basis. Really, it's more on a cash basis. Way of looking at the township. And so here on page 11, we have the governmental funds, and we have our general fund, which we had cash and cash equivalents of $1.4 million, property tax receivable of almost $1 million, due from other governmental units, $132,000, and then due from other funds, $225,000, and prepaid expenditures of $86,758. That brought us down to $2,831,000. Total cash for just the general fund at 12/31. Liabilities, we had $27,000 in payables, $50,000 in accrued liabilities. And then we had deferred inflow of resources, taxes levied for a subsequent period of $1,194,353, and that would be for the next fiscal year operations. And total fund balance for the year, we had non-spendable of $86,758 for the prepaids, and then unassigned fund balance of the general fund of $1,473,100. Which comes down to a total fund balance of $1,559,858, just for the general fund. And then we have Township Capital Projects Fund. For the township that for special projects. Cash and cash equivalents of $715,000. Property taxes, $308,000 for due at 12/31, and due from other governmental units of $41,000, and due from other funds of $71,858. It comes down to total assets of $1,136,908, and total liabilities only $4,000, which then, as you can see, committed for capital projects. That whole balance of your fund balance of $752,312 is committed solely for capital projects within the township. Other governmental funds, this is a summary of your non-major governmental funds. It is in the back. If you, on pages 57 and 58, it's more of a detail. However, this is just kind of a summary. On 57 and 58, that is a little bit more detail. And I do want to make one note. The township did have a change during the year with the funds. They did create, you guys did create the Parks Fund, and that is recognized, you can see on page 57 and 58. So that's where we have a little bit of a change with the general fund and the other governmental funds. And we can go into that. I mean, that's part of your required supplementary information that's in the back. It's just too much to put up in the front the time. So that just gives you a breakdown, a little bit more breakdown of your parks, your building inspections, your other capital project funds, township improvement, your 2013 capital improvement B fund, and then a couple of your debt service funds, 2013 A bonds, and 2013 B bonds fund, and then your permanent fund. And then, so then in total, fund balance of basically, and you can see it's some of it you got prepaids in your other governmental funds of just $1,728. Perpetual care, $49,932. That's non-spendable. And then you have restricted building inspections, $178,463. Parks, $68,276. And capital projects, $57,474. And then committed capital projects, $78,592, and then debt service, $869,025, which comes down to total fund balance of $1,303,490 for your total fund balance for your other governmental funds. Now, if you go back to page 12, does anybody have any questions with any? Sorry, I'm just trying to give a little bit of overview. If you want me to go into any more detail with anything, I'll be happy to. On page 12, this is just basically the way to get from your fund basis to the government-wide. So basically from your cash basis up to your full accrual. And really, this just kind of goes in through the differences of your fund balances, which is primarily your capital assets are brought onto your books in the government-wide. The internal service fund. Then the difference is the deferred inflows and outflows for pension and OPEB, and then you can see the liabilities. So any debt is then brought onto your books, which is not reflected on page 11. So that's your debt of your pension liability, your bonds payable, any accrued interest, OPEB liability, and then accrued vacation and sick payable. And then if you go to page 13, same thing, for our general fund, our township capital projects, and other governmental funds. This is our statement of revenues and expenditures. So this is everything that's happened during fiscal year 2019. So taxes, the general fund brought in $1,283,000. License and permits, $45,674. Intergovernmental charges, $337,575, which could be grants, be a mixture of things. Charges for service, $72,961. Interest and rent, $12,283, and other of $7,484, which comes down to a total revenues for the general fund of $1,759,277. And then expenditures, the general government, $514,918. Public safety, $406,391. Public works, $303,000. Community and economic development, $21,415. Recreation and culture, there was a little bit this year in there. It was during the year when that Parks Fund had transferred over, the bulk of it. So the general fund still had a little bit of parks expense, but primarily if you look over in that other governmental, that $155,168, that's what would have been normally in the general fund prior to the new Parks Fund. And And then other activities, $75,534. Total expenditures in the general fund of $1,339,070, which the general fund ended up having revenues over expenditures of $420,207. And then transfers from and to other funds, total $360,328, net transferred to other funds for operations, and ending with a total fund balance at the end of the year of $1,559,858, which was a total increase of almost $60,000 for the year. So the general fund looked really good for the year. Township capital projects, taxes, $281,438. Intergovernmental, $69,100, and then interest and rent, $3,959, for a total of $354,497 dollars in revenue. Expenditures, capital outlay, $64,164, but then you can also see down here on the bottom, there was $35,000 that was transferred in from the general fund, and then transfers to other funds, that $125,600. What that primarily was the board had budgeted certain projects for dollar amounts for projects with the water and the sewer and other places. And so with those items, those capital items, they have to be set up as a fixed asset. So we ended up transferring that to the water and sewer fund, and then that way they're reflected appropriately within the water and sewer fund. However, it's everything, it was what was budgeted originally by the board. So then the net change in fund balance for the township capital projects was total increase of $199,733, and so an ending fund balance of the year of $752,312 to be used for future projects. Other governmental funds, total taxes, $223,498. And again, the detail of this for the other governmental funds for the revenues and expenditures is in more detail on page 59 and 60. Let's see here. And then, so total taxes, $223,000. License and permits, $180,498. That has definitely was an increase due to the DTE plant. Charges for services, $14,215. Interest and rent, $4,568, and other, $14,838. Total revenue and other governmental funds of $437,617. And then total, and then expenses had $104,197 in public safety, recreation and culture, $155,168. A little bit of capital outlay, only about $500. And then, of course, our debt service, $60,000 of debt service payments, and then interest and fiscal charges of $24,959. Total expenditures of $344,843. And then net transfers in of $211,509. Net change in fund balance was an increase of $304,283, which would be an ending fund balance at the end of the year of $1,303,490. And then on page 14, this is pretty much the same thing as what we just kind of talked about, the reconciliation that was on page 12, except for this is the change in the fund balance. So this is how we get from basically page 13, change in fund balance of $563,895, to the statement of activities, change in net position of governmental activities of $573,809. And again, it's pretty much the same items. It's the difference with it's your capital outlay, your depreciation expense, any new capital items you bought, internal service fund, debt payments, and then, of course, the changes in the liability for the pension and OPEB and interest, and then sick and vacation. So, any questions with that? Okay. If you go to page 15 and 16, this is the statement of net position of the business type activities, the water and the sewer, and then the internal service fund. And I'll go briefly over this. I kind of touched in total with the water sewer fund in the front of the financials. But really, this is just a little bit more of a breakdown. This is where your water and sewer funds were at 12/31. And of course, the business type activities, there's really no change from this to the front because this is already a full accrual method. So all of your assets, your capital assets, and your debt is already included in the proprietary funds. So for your water fund, total current assets of $819,072, and then restricted assets of $356,988. Then, of course, you can see the breakout of the property, plant, and equipment. It's a little bit more detail here. Total property, plant, and equipment net of depreciation is $5,946,890 for the water fund. And then you have other assets deposit with the Sewer and Water Authority. This is deposit for operations of $130,520, and then ends up with the total assets for the water fund of $7,253,470. A little bit of deferred outflows again for the pension and OPEB plan. And liabilities for the water, $57,581 total current liabilities. That's really just a little bit of accounts payable, and then your loan payable and bonds payable. And then I do want to, let's see here. And then also, your current liabilities payable from restricted assets, accrued interest of $1,520, and bonds payable of current portion $319,036. Now, I do want to point out that amount there, you do have your last payment next year for the 1999 bonds. So there is only a current portion and not a long-term portion for the bonds payable. Then also your long-term liabilities, this is anything less after the current portions, due to component unit, $891,167, and net pension liability of $249,115, and net OPEB liability of $4,588. So total long-term liabilities, $1,144,870, and it comes down to your total liabilities for the water fund of $1,523,007. Deferred inflows of resources, again, few items here related to the pension and OPEB plan, but then primarily taxes levied for the subsequent period of $279,961. Comes down to your total net position, net investment in capital assets in the water fund of $5,576,039, and your unrestricted deficit of $110,681. So with a total net position of $5,465,355. And then, so really it's the same thing for the sewer. Sewer total assets, $645,743. There's no restricted assets in the sewer. Property, plant, and equipment. Net would be $6,137,169. Other assets, deposit with the Water and Sewer Authority, $360,070, which comes down to your total assets for the sewer fund of $7,142,982. Again, a couple deferred outflows for the pension and OPEB plan. Liabilities, really only $29,000, primarily accounts payable, just current invoices that are due at 12/31. And then long-term liabilities, primarily due to the component unit, $1,116,161, and then net pension liability and net OPEB liability. Comes down to your total net position, net investment in capital assets of $6,137,169, and then your unrestricted deficit is $375,785. So that's pretty much how those two are really broken out. And then you have your governmental internal service fund, which, I mean, I can kind of go through that a little bit, but really, the internal service fund, it does have an unrestricted deficit of 25,000, but it's really funded by the township as a whole. And the general fund and that, I mean, everything is fine. It just depends on what gets transferred during the year and how those, so the internal service fund, that's really no worries there, having an unrestricted deficit.
Jamie, I do have one question.
Yeah.
On the water and the sewer, when we get down to the net position, the unrestricted deficit for the water, 110,684.
Yes.
Is that what we were short in our, like our water bills and everything that we are falling behind on?
No, I would say a lot of that is really has to do with, I mean, every year, like, it's, and when I kind of go through the revenue and expenses, you'll see it a little bit more. But really, you have depreciation, which is not a cash item. When you guys buy things, items are depreciated over a course of however many years the life of the asset is.
Okay.
So that's really not a true, I'm gonna look at
So there's other
operating
things,
costs.
there's other figures involved in that.
Yeah, and a lot of it really too, I mean, you've got your pension and OPEB, which you guys are funded as much as, I mean, you are required to by the state. I mean, if anything, your OPEB, you guys are in very good shape for your OPEB. I believe you guys, I think, are 70-some% funded for the OPEB, which you're only required to be right now 40%, so you are in great shape for the OPEB. And then your pension, you guys are right at that 60% requirement. So you guys are really, I would say, I mean, it's really, I wanted to say how the numbers fall.
Okay.
You know, at times, I know sometimes, I know we don't ever like to see those deficits, but really, let me see here. So like if I add back the depreciation to the operating income that's on page 17 for the water and the sewer fund, your water fund really had an operating income of $102,198, which here it shows an operating loss of $213,565. But if you add back that depreciation, you guys are really, your water bills are covering your expenses.
Okay.
As of right now, unless if you guys have any larger projects or, you know, anything that you guys want to do later on down the road. But as of right now, for the day-to-day, you guys are definitely covering that. And then the same thing for the sewer. You guys are pretty much, I would say, about breaking even. If you add back the depreciation, you are right about $11,682. So I would say that would be pretty much even. And then too, I mean, you look at that too, you also have some transfers in from those capital projects funds, which you guys do have money that is set aside for that.
Okay,
So
thank you.
So, so yeah, I mean, really just, you know, for your total operating revenues, you know, your water and sewer, you guys are, as we just said, I mean, total operating revenues for, I'll just say the water and sewer both, $1,736,501. Total operating expenses, $2,229,027, but that also includes the depreciation of $606,000 as I added back. And then too, you also have your property taxes as well that is used for that, which that is down there on the bottom. So those other numbers that I had just mentioned didn't even include the property taxes in the water fund of the $327,000. So for that, then property tax is $327,000, and then you have a loss on the disposal of capital assets, which primarily is just some items that the membranes, actually, I think if I remember correctly, they're already being replaced, and it's just really just kind of an accounting thing. So that's a loss on items, and it was really, I think, it's just the time that we ended up depreciating it. So
Okay.
they're just reaching their useful life, and we're just basically pulling them off as we they're replaced. And then interest on bonds, about $12,000. Interest earned, $8,417, and then other miscellaneous revenue, $17,276. So your total non-operating revenues for the water and sewer fund is $263,300, and that is before your any transfers in. And the total transfers in was $164,419. So that ends up having a total net position at the end of the year of $11,226,739. Page 18, this is just a cash flow This is really just where your money went and came from during the year. And I'm not going to go into too much detail with that, but if you ever wanted to see where your money is going, this would be the page to look at of how much money's coming in from your customers, how much is going out for debt. It's really just basically where was your cash last year, where are you at this year, and all the ins and outs. If you go to page 19, this is your statement of fiduciary net position for the fiduciary funds. This would be the tax fund and then your other post-employment trust fund. The tax fund had cash and accounts receivable of $759,626 at 12/31, and again, most of that was just due to other funds and due to other governmental units. It's really just a timing thing because you guys are collecting right in the middle of when the taxes are due, and so it's just really, I mean, it all depends on when they come in. So that number can fluctuate from year to year. And then your other post-employment benefits trust fund was investments were up this year. It was at $623,448 at 12/31. And you could see your net appreciation and fair value of investments was $93,214 this year. You had employer contributions of $50,000. And just to say how we were talking about the market fluctuation, I believe last year you guys had a negative $30,000 appreciation. So it's just really how the market's doing and stuff. So that definitely at 12/31, the markets were definitely doing good. So your end of your year net position restricted for retiree health care was $623,448. Then on page 20, these are our notes. This just goes into a lot more detail, really of just everything we kind of just covered. Just kind of talks about the reporting entity. On page 22, just the types of funds. You have a general fund, capital project fund, water and sewer fund, and then any special revenue funds and other capital projects and debt service fund and permanent funds. On page,
Question.
let's see.
Going back to that other post-employment trust fund,
Oh, yes.
and that 50, that's the accumulation of all the 50,000s that we put in over the last probably,
No. Well, the 50,000 that's on there for the addition,
we've been doing that every year though.
that is just that year. That is, I'm sorry, the statement of changes in fiduciary net position, there, that 50,000 was just the activity during that year. So the 623,448,000, that is the accumulation of all the 50,000s and
Right.
the net appreciation for the whole year.
Okay.
So yeah, if you pull up any of the older, like last year's audit report, yeah, you'll see 50,000 in there as well. Okay, so really here, page 20, 21, 22, just really just kind of goes into a little bit about the township. Like I said, the type of funds that you have, and kind of goes on, and then what you have reported. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail unless if there's any specific questions on anything. It's pretty much the same as it is every year. For the most part, I mean, your fund balance, you got your non-spendable, your restricted fund balance, and your committed and assigned fund balance and unassigned fund balance, which we kind of went into already a little bit with your general fund and then your other funds as well, as far as what the township is able to spend. And then, let's see here. And then the one thing I would like to go over, the new accounting pronouncements. There are going to be next year a new GASB, and actually it's supposed to be implemented this year, except for due to COVID, it did get pushed back. So we decided not to implement that with management, and also many of our other clients also decided to not implement it as well. So next year, we will be implementing GASB number 84, fiduciary activities. And really, that is just basically how we account for you guys. It'll really be the tax fund. It'll be basically shown a little bit different next year. And then GASB statement number 87, this will become effective for your the township's December 31st, 2021 fiscal year, and this is just really just affects our operating leases and how things are recognized, deferred inflows and outflows. So Budgetary information, there was no items that were over budget, so you guys did a very good job of budgeting. Deposits and investments, this is just a little bit more detail of where the cash and cash equivalents, what it's broken out. Really, everything is pretty much checking, money market savings, except for some mutual funds, which is with the OPEB trust. See here, then it just goes on to a little bit more detail. Nothing new really there from the prior years. Your property taxes goes into a little bit because you guys do break out how the general township operating and where you guys would like those the taxes to go to. So this is just pretty much the percentage of where those taxes, the millage rates were allocated. On page 32, go into a little bit more of the detail. This is just a breakout of what the receivables were at 12/31 for the governmental and business type activities. As you can see, the bulk of them is from taxes. It's taxes that are due at 12/31. Same thing, note 6, we go down here, just a breakout, a due from other funds, so that just tells you, it just breaks down those numbers just a little bit more as far as at 12/31, and so there was a total really of $444,434 that was due from the current tax fund at 12/31. Due to primary government and component units, this is just a little bit more of a detail. It's just really a breakout what's due from the water and sewer authority, or what's due to the water and sewer authority from the water and sewer fund. And really, that's just amounts allocated for portion of net pension liability, net OPEB liability, and/or some operating activities. Note 6 is just interfund receivable payables. So this is where all the transfers that happened during the year. And as you can see, some of them just for operating costs. Internal service fund, there was a transfer from the general to the internal service fund, $75,000 during the year. And then also for capital costs, you can see the sewer fund, that $100,000 that's being transferred from the township capital project fund to the sewer fund for $100,000, and then $25,600 from the capital projects to the water fund. So this is just a little bit more of a detail that breaks out those numbers that are in the financial statements in the front. Capital assets, this is just a really just where the township was at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, any additions and adjustments, broken down by the governmental activities and the business type activities. We already kind of went through those a little bit. The governmental activities had some projects going on. Usually it's typically your road projects where there's some parks and rocks, and then of course obviously our business type activities is typically the water sewer system or the water plant. So yeah, that's just a little bit more detail of what we already covered. Anybody have any questions specifically with capital assets? And then on page 35 is just how the depreciation is broken out between the governmental activities and then the business type activities. So that is where items were actually expensed within the financial statements. Let's see here. And then here, construction, there was a construction purchase commitment at 12/31. The township awarded a contract for a sewer pump station improvements in October 2019 for $273,000, for which the township was committed at 12/31. And then payables, this is just a breakout of what the payables are at the end of the year for governmental and business type. Total of $96,307 for the governmental, and business type $34,833. On page 36 is your long-term debt. This is basically just kind of shows where you're at, where the township is at 12/31 with their debt payments, and then also shows what the payments that did occur, or if there was any additions, but there wasn't really any additions. Really, we just had an adjustment with accrued vacation and sick. If you look at the business type activities, as I mentioned earlier, that 1999 Department of Environmental Quality bonds, you can see due within 1 year, that is the remaining balance, and then that debt will be paid in full. So
It'll be done in right after the first of the year? Is that what you're telling me?
It'll be done this fiscal year 2020. So I don't know what, I'd have to look
I
back
thought
at.
it was done in April.
Huh?
I thought it was done this past April.
It might have been, no, but I'm talking as of 12/31/2019.
right.
So,
Okay, yeah.
you guys probably did already pay it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it did.
So then that's great, because then that one is definitely, that'll come off of there, next year. And then that'll also free up a little bit of cash flow as well.
And the millage too, that'll drop off, because that was a bond, so that'll be the, I think
Yep.
we lose .74 on the millage,
Yeah, I'd have to look back.
something like that, yeah, pretty close.
But it'll be nice just to have that done, though.
Right,
And
right.
good for the residents and everything. So, so that's just a synopsis of your long-term debt at 12/31. And then it goes on page 37, a little bit more detail. This is just really the payments and how they're projected out. So pretty much you could look at a cash flow of where the payments and when they are due in future for what's remaining. Let's see here. Operational disposal. And then I just talk about our joint ventures, note 11. St. Clair, you guys are in joint venture with St. Clair Area Fire Authority and the Marine City Fire Authority. So basically, you guys share costs with other municipalities. I know China Township is part of that as well. So anyways, it's a great way to share costs to help cover the fire in the area. Note 12, I'm not going to go into this a whole lot. Note 12 and Note 13 are very long notes. That is regarding your employee pension plan and your post-employment plans. The notes keep on getting longer and longer over the years of what's required. If anybody has any specific questions with anything with the OPEB or the pension, I'd be happy to answer. Like I mentioned earlier, you guys are in good shape. You guys are funded where you should be. We went through the numbers in the financial statements. You guys are right where you guys really, really should be. This is just a breakdown of everything, quite a bit more, and all the required disclosures that are required in financial statements for the state. Does anybody want me to go into any details with that, or? Okay. So then if we kind of skip on to, go back to, let's see here. Note 14, that's just a disclosure of what the township's restricted assets are as of 12/31/2019. Note 15, principal taxpayer and utility customer. That would be DTE. They accounted for 58% of your property taxes this last year. Wastewater treatment services, 31%, and then water purchases of 10%. So that has to be disclosed because they are a primary, a principal taxpayer and utility customer. Let's see here. And then really the only thing that's a little bit different, note 18, than from prior years, you guys, in April 2020, subsequent event, the township awarded a contract for a sanitary force main bypass project for $529,559. And then also, this just kind of goes into a little bit, the end of December about the outbreak of the coronavirus, COVID-19. That there's been mandates from federal, state, and local authorities requiring forced closures. And really, that we just don't know what the impacts of that is. Hoping not as much. So, anyways, it's still continuing to impact us as we have our mask on today. So that's pretty much the notes. Then there's the required supplementary information. This is just a little bit more detailed. This just goes to show you where your original budget was, your amended budget, and then your actual. So we just kind of already went through that a little bit. That just goes in a little bit more detail. And then on page 52 and 53, also some more information regarding the employees, the retirement system, and the schedule of contributions, and where the township is at for the year. So as you can see, the total pension liability at the end of the year, $8,778,286. And then there's that number there, the 60.34%. is what you guys are. So last year, you can see where that came up from 2018. So you guys are definitely right where you're required to be for the pension. And then it's the same thing, really, for, if you go to page 55, this is for the OPEB. Total OPEB liability at the end of the year, $838,827. This is for the township as a whole, including the component unit. And as you can see, plan fiduciary net position as a percentage of total OPEB, 74%, and you're required to be at 40. So definitely in good shape with your OPEB. So then supplementary information, we'd already kind of touched on that. That's just the detail breakout of your non-major governmental funds with your assets and then your revenue and expenditures on page 59 and 60. Unless if anybody has any questions with anything specific regarding those. I'd like to kind of look at the letters that we have. Every year we do issue a couple of letters. We have an independent auditor's report on internal control. We just had a couple items that we had noted when we were going through the audit this year. Does everybody have that in front of them? Or? Huh? Yes, these letters here. Yep, there's internal auditor's report, internal control, and then audit communication letter. So with the internal control letter, there's just a couple items that we had noted that these are material weaknesses that were reported.
Just give it back to me.
So we're required to document or note any items that we come across during the audit. And the one is lack of segregation of duties. And really, in the year before, there was a little bit of turnover. And whenever there's turnover, there's change of duties. And with that, there's some things that one person could be doing a couple things, and then we just really have to look at the controls that are in place. When we talked with Cindy during our draft meeting, I do know that there's some things that they're going to be looking at and already are implementing to help correct some of these segregation of duties. So really, we were just recommending, just take a look at who's all has access to what computer programs, BSNA, and who really needs that access, and what is necessary to perform their job function. So that's that one. The next one, 2019-002, we're just recommending all cash receipts. It's really just a timing. That including taxes and utility payments should be recorded in the receipting system at the time of payment. So it's just our understanding that all payments received, they're recorded in the township cash receipting system, that they're not recorded in the cash receipting system at the time of payments. So they're put off to the side, and so we're just recommending that to be, it's just a control issue, really, just to have them payments placed to be receipted immediately when they are received. And then we also recommend that the township review the cash receipting process for just a more efficient way of immediately scanning, posting individual receipts. Basically, really, the sooner that the items are recorded into the system, it's just a little. It can be more efficient. It's just more controls, and especially with regarding cash. And I do believe you guys are already working on addressing that as well. Preparation of financial statements in accordance with GAAP. This is in a lot of our townships audit. This is really nothing new too much. This is just basically that we're helping assist to draft the financial statements in accordance with GAAP. And that's really all that that's saying. So then if you go to, does anybody have any questions with any of those items? Then we have an audit communication letter. This is something that we prepare for the board because we do like to come here and do, and go over the audit, but we're not required to do so. So this is an audit communication letter that kind of goes over some items that are not material weaknesses. They're not as, but they're just some recommendations that might help maybe improve efficiencies or processes. And just kind of goes over a couple of items that are noted during the audit. So first thing is significant audit findings. Items that we find are kind of really regarding the audit, accounting estimates. There are some larger estimates that are within the financials, and some of these larger estimates have to do with the MERS, the net pension liability, management's estimate of the net OPEB liability, and management estimate of the unbilled water and sewer, and depreciation. Really, it's just making the township aware that these are estimates. Sometimes estimates, we go off of the best of our ability, of our knowledge at that time. Component unit, management provides estimates for costs associated with water loss for water and water infiltration system for sewer, which are based on allocating the water loss and the sewer infiltration costs by the activity for each year of the participating townships. And then also management estimate for the pension liability and the OPEB for the component unit as well. So those are just some of the larger estimates that could affect the financial statements for East China. That's all that's saying. And then we evaluated some of the key factors in developing those assumptions. Also, too, we'd like to note that there are some disclosures that are particularly sensitive because of their significance. And again, that is your net pension liability and the OPEB liability. And it's really just, they're quite significant to the financials because of how large they are. And also, they're sensitive as far as it's changing and stuff. So, and then also, we would like to know that working with management was great to work with this year, as they always are every year to work with. We did not encounter any difficulties in performing the audit. Besides the fact that COVID, I would say that was the week that we were here, and we started off this audit here on site, and then kind of went off-site and did some stuff and then had to come back to finish. So the audit was a little bit longer this year than what it normally is, but definitely, this whole year has been not the same as it normally has been either. So anyway, this is just kind of, if you go down here, corrected and uncorrected misstatements. This is just a couple of items that were a little bit more material that we helped assist the township with. We assisted with adjustments to the water and the sewer funds, adjustments to the net pension and OPEB liabilities, recording fixed assets, deletion and depreciation expenses, some reclassification of current year community stabilization funds, and some reclassification of capital improvement transfers. So those are just some of the larger items that we helped assist the township with during the audit. Really just kind of just goes down, other matters. And then really if we get to the rest of this is really just boilerplate. Just really we had no disagreements with management and the audit went great. Really it did. On page, attachment A I should say, this is a couple of items that we had noted. Just a couple of recommendations we're really just recommending to the board that could just help improve some controls and maybe some items that could be strengthened and really, or just really to have the board just take a look at and just basically be aware. So there's a couple things. One of them being controls over bank transfers, including direct deposits. We just recommend the township looking into with the banking system. They have dual controls with a lot of the banking to have someone being the initiator and then someone being the approver. So that way there's always two eyes. I mean, I know the board sees everything anyways, but at that time, it just is banking control that really helps that there's two eyes, whether it's an error, sometimes you get extra zero in there or whatnot. So it just kind of helps to have a second set of eyes when transferring any funds outside of the township. We also recommend that the township should reconcile wages reported per the general ledger to the wages reported on the 941s. It was being reconciled with the payroll reports, but we're just recommending one step further to the general ledger. And then that way, if there's any differences, anything could be investigated, and that way too, you know, when you're looking at your financials, you're looking at their salaries. And then reconciliation between the daily cash balance report and physical cash deposits should be reviewed. We're just recommending that, currently the utility billing receivable secretary prints the daily cash balance report, balances the funds received to this report, and prepares the deposit for the bank courier service. In order to have greater controls, we recommend that the clerk's office secretary who receipts the funds at the front counter be the one to print the daily cash report. And one copy of that report be maintained by the clerk's office secretary, and one copy be given to the utility billing receivable secretary to use to prepare the deposit slip. And then basically validate what was on the deposit slip actually made it to the bank for that person that's actually in control of that cash. So it's just an extra control in place. And then also employee pay rates, documentation and policy for the use of time cards should be evaluated. We're just recommending that proper pay rate is being used, and each employee is basically reflected in each employee's personnel file and documented. We were able to get to, really what it is you guys do have documentation of the pay rates. However, we're recommending in personnel files, because sometimes board minutes, when they get approved in the board minutes, it could be 3 years prior, and somebody's like, oh, can I see approval for that? We're just recommending, or if there's even reviewing somebody's pay and everything, you've got documentation right in their file. And it could be something as simple as just printing off the board minutes and throwing it in there. And then also too, the use of time cards. We just recommend that be evaluated. I think, Cindy, we've already kind of maybe talked about that a little bit. So just to evaluate the use of time cards, and that everybody's basically kind of using the same system.
What is it about time cards you were saying?
That was, I believe, I think there was one person that wasn't submitting a time sheet timely for pay, is what that came across. I mean, there was, I think it was with the parks, but I believe that situation, or that had been addressed, correct me if I'm wrong.
We're working on that right now.
Or working on it, or in process.
Not sure.
That's the question I had, was regarding the process that the park has been told to use. I was requested to ask that question of you. I didn't know if that was something that we should bring up here, if it's an internal issue, but my understanding is that they are completing their timesheets differently, or we're told to differently from what other departments are, in terms of the information that's placed on that time card.
Well, we've had that discussion. We do have a meeting on Wednesday, and I think there's a miscommunication.
Okay.
So we're just recommending evaluating that process. So as far as just the use of time cards, and then that way it's just transparency and everything's clear. And then invoices should be approved by someone other than the individual preparing the check. I believe that's already in the process as well. It was just noted the person paying the checks were approving some of the same checks that maybe they had ordered some items. So we're just recommending that someone that is inputting and paying the invoices, somebody else is approving it and looking at it. So it's got somebody else, two eyes, and I know everything comes through the board as well, but it's just when you're paying it and you're looking at it a little bit closer, we're just recommending another set of eyes on there. And then controls over the utility billing system could be approved. We do recommend that all utility billing adjustments, that there's not really, there wasn't any irregularities or anything that was noted within the audit, but we're just recommending maybe reviewing a policy for billing adjustment approvals. We recommend DPW supervisor or plant supervisor, somebody to look at any adjustments that are made. So there is a second set of eyes on that. And whether they approve them monthly or quarterly, but what is getting adjusted in the records, actually in the BS&A billing system, was actually approved. And usually it's just a sign off from one of the supervisors that they authorize that. Because usually they're the ones that are out there noting that there was, a leak or something, or, with the, unfortunately, earlier, but, the sewer being credited and stuff. So they're aware of what's going on. So we just recommend that policy be evaluated. And then the last one, but not least, the township policy for the fire and emergency run should be reviewed. We're just recommending you guys evaluate that policy. It's our understanding that there's very few runs that are invoiced during the year or anything. It's just, right now, the policy is not completely being followed, but it's, so we're just kind of evaluating. We just recommend the township evaluate whether that policy should be still in place or not, so. I think that is it. Again, I'd like to thank, Cindy and everybody here for letting me come to speak with you guys. Everybody, once again, was great to work with. And I like it because it's close to my home. So,
Well, it's quite a deal with you guys being in here, then you had to run out, and then you came back months later to get this done.
but we got it done, and everything was issued in time. But yeah, no, this whole year's been an interesting year for all of us.
Oh, yeah,
So hopefully next year we can not have these on. And
yeah. Good. Does
Nice
anybody
job,
else
Jamie.
have-
You carried a lot of ground there. Hope you have some water to drink there.
yeah, well, this. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay, is anybody, moving on to new business. Asset management software recommendation for purchase. Cindy?
Well, as it's a little difficult to speak, I did share a lot of information. Hopefully you've had a chance to go over it, and we're here for questions, basically. We've got two of the department heads here as well that would be impacted by this. I guess what I can say is that in June, I think June 30th, we did present some information about one of the packages, the solutions, and we were asked to come back with some more comparable quotes and some information about what other communities may be doing.
Where is the information, what the other communities are doing?
Okay, there's a few references, I think.
I saw the references,
Included.
but is there anything from Marysville, anything from Port
Okay,
Huron?
so, let's see, Marine City, they have, Tetra Tech had did some mapping a while ago under a SAW grant. They have no GIS system to read it, but again, something that they would really like to have. City of St. Clair, their engineer manages all of their GIS, and they bill them, I believe, under engineering services. It was initially funded by a SAW grant, so that's all handled, outsourced by an engineering firm for them. Marysville was trying to get information to me today. Again, it sounds like they have an ArcGIS system that's managed out of the house. No one else got back with me, despite my many attempts to gather information.
So
but
once
the-
again, there's no one in the lower part of Michigan that is using this system at this time.
Well, no, some of the references,
It was Ferris State and Kingsford.
okay. I guess if you want to look at it that way, I suppose.
Well, I guess I can ask Chuck, you were in Algonac. What procedure did you guys use in Algonac?
At the time I worked there, they didn't have either.
They didn't have one.
And I couldn't tell you if they had it.
Okay.
And I did speak with the engineer, and he had admitted that he had not heard of the company. He was familiar with a couple of other companies, but after reviewing it, gave his comments, and it provides all of the same types of things with the benefit of the interface with BAS or BSNA. And he wanted to ensure us that just because he had mentioned he had never heard of them, he didn't want that to hinge on the decision.
As I stated earlier, I don't think we should be driving the wagon and leading the wagon through the woods if we can't find some kind of comparables on how other people are doing it in this lower part. Again, we're a small municipality, 4,200 people, 1,000 homes. Again, I would like to see how other communities are handling this situation before we spend this kind of money on this project. That's just my opinion.
Debbie, do you have anything to add to this?
I'm kind of in agreement with Angelo. I'd like to see something down this way comparable to this, or find out if somebody else is using it.
Well, we've
Closer.
done that information gathering, and there are many communities that are using the one on the middle of the chart of the table that I provided you. And that's the one that we brought to the table first, and then we searched out other options and came up with this other option that, so I did get some feedback. Some of the ones that are using the Silversmith data have been told by them that they are working on a BSNA integration, and they're hopeful to get it soon. I've been involved with a BSNA integration before on another community, and that can be upwards from $15,000 to $20,000 to add a module on. So there are communities using some software. Most communities are working towards it. A lot of communities outsource it to their engineering firm and handle it all. They handle it all for them.
Was
And
there
that's
any data?
at an hourly billing
Like
rate.
with City of St. Clair, who said their engineers do it and how much they charge them to do it?
I did ask that. The city's engineer, AEW, manages the entire program, GIS program, for the last 4 years. I have no idea how much it was initially. It was covered by a SAW grant, and they don't have a separate bill. It's just included in their engineering services. So they provide all the GIS mapping and specialists, and all of that is in their monthly engineering services. So I couldn't get a specific number that would be just for this, but they get billed monthly for engineering services.
What did they use in your old community, Cindy? What were they using down there?
Again, they actually
Subcontract?
subcontract it out to Fishback.
Dwayne, did they have this in Mount Clements when you were down there, or
I believe they started to integrate it through the SAW grant. if I'm not mistaken.
through the SAW grant? It seems to be where everybody got it, through the SAW grant.
It is, and that's where we're at a bit
And
of a
we didn't get the SAW
disadvantage.
grant.
Correct. But the funding is there. We do have money in the capital projects fund. We would not have to do a budget amendment. It is something that, if you want to kind of compare it to the odometer on a car, in and of itself, it's not very useful, but it provides you guideposts and information to constantly be on top of what's happening with your car. Without it, you could keep logs and journals and know when your tires need to be rotated and your oil needs to be changed, but these computers inside your car kind of
Yeah, I went
manage
through
that
the
for you.
demonstration. I was quite impressed with the location and stuff like that. I think the two plant superintendents here can explain how they could use it in their plants to identify equipment. You're saying, I read a little bit about, how you would, if somebody was coming in to work on something, it would give them all the data, the history on it?
Yeah, you're able to catalog almost an infinite amount of data. So anytime you work on it, any service intervals are collected in a file that is at the click of a button. Any service rep or even any water plant superintendent or employee would be able to pull up and have access to immediately. So if you begin to see a repeated failure or trouble with a piece of equipment, it's a great indicator that maybe that needs a special sort of service or rehabilitation.
What are you doing now? You just documented it,
Right now,
pencil,
well,
or?
prior to myself taking over the water plant, there was a three-ring binder that guys would just check off things that they had done. Today, thanks to Chuck, when he first came, he had a free trial of a computerized maintenance management system that I just took the initiative to try to use. And so I use that. It's pretty limited in its capabilities, but I generate work orders. I make copies for the operators to initial and date and assign how much time it's taking them to do all that. But it's not really repeatable. I do it, but there's really, if I lost that file, it'd be gone forever. All of that, other than the copies that I make. And I know in a green-minded world, we're trying to get away from all of those, those those individual papers. Having a cloud-based system where once somebody does it, they click that it's done, and it's saved for life in the cloud is very valuable. I would just love to share just one instance with the water main break that we just had. You know, for 3 days, we lost almost 3 million gallons of water to the ground. When we found it and started to excavate, there was an ex-employee that showed up on the scene and indicated to us that he knew that pipe had been there the whole time, but they never documented it. And when we asked him why, he held his finger to his head and he winked at us. He said, well, we knew it, nobody else did. So that's the mentality of your past employees, and your current employees want to pass on that legacy information for time immemorial. That's the value I see in my eyes.
And I can agree with you 100% on that, Dwayne, and I don't have that. All I'm saying is there has to be another animal or another creature out there that can do the same thing, but not to that level. Okay? That's what I'm saying. And there's something out there, because other municipalities must be using something that does the same thing not at the cost of what this is going to cost us.
So in my experience, this cost is fairly moderate. The ArcGIS system, which was sort of the catalyst for all of these programs, is today what you would call the Cadillac. And that is what you see in a lot of municipalities whose engineers, sort of run their GIS. And I can't speculate as to what engineering costs are, but I know that when I work with engineers, they call us to provide the data that they need to put into that system. This allows your employees to own the system, manage it, and pass it on. So an engineer doesn't own the information, you own it.
And I think that's where we got into trouble with our previous engineer.
Absolutely.
They took all the stuff with them, all the data went with them. They will get it for us, but we have to pay to retrieve it.
Yeah, I don't think we should put it in the hands of our engineer, just simply because if we switch, then we're at their mercy. My big concern is that we use it. If we're gonna spend that much money on something,
And I think that.
I don't want it to go
right.
by, if you two gentlemen retire, I don't want it to just get thrown off to the side by the next person.
I think they could,
Big frustration,
right.
when I first hired into East China, the product you bought 18 years ago sat up on the shelf in the water plant because we weren't given the tools to use it. Your past engineer brought that box with the software, put it on our computer, showed us all the fancy pictures, never gave us the tools to use it. And I'm sorry to say that your department heads didn't have the initiative to work with it. And I'm telling you today that your department heads have the initiative and the desire to make this work. We will do the best we can. We have a company that's willing to put the time in with us to show us how to work, and to quote them, give us the keys.
Well, it's up to the board, what do they want to do with it?
I suppose I would ask, if you decide not to go with any of these options today, I would ask that you give me specifically what it is that you need more information on.
Ange, what you're saying is you want a system that's not as elaborate as this, or is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. And I'm saying that there's other municipalities out there that are bigger than us, have more homes than we do, have more sewer lines than we do, have more lift stations than we do, and I just would like to know how they handle it and what they do with it,
Well,
what they're using.
Right. So I think I indicated most of them will have their engineer take care of it. I did find that in Oakland County, there's a county-wide effort, and a lot of the communities can buy into it, so that they're only paying for a piece of it, but they have access to all of it. Farmington Hills replied with that answer to me. So there's a multitude of different ways that communities are handling it. They're very customizable, so again, it's hard to get an apples-to-apples comparison. You have to find the one that fits good for you, and is going to work for your employees.
And isn't the cost that we were quoted per population?
Well, the way it works is they have a sliding scale, just like BSNA. It's population-based. The smaller population, the lower the cost, the higher, and it's just a scale that they usually use for the solution software. It's a standard type of managing how to cost things out.
Would there be such a thing as partnering with St. Clair and Marine City or maybe Marysville to buy a joint one?
Again, I think that would complicate things. It would be based on population again. That's their costing model that they use.
It would just increase the cost.
Correct.
What's that?
You pay your
Just
portion of the
increase
cost.
I can
It would increase the cost.
It'd be divided by 3.
incur it cost to us, or would it reduce the cost?
Well, I don't know what their sliding scale is. I mean, if
I
it's,
don't know.
if it's,
Because, I mean, it sounds like the other municipalities that you contacted have all said, geez, we'd like to have this, but we don't. Is that what I'm getting from?
Well, they haven't reached that point. A lot of them had a SAW grant, and they found themselves in the same situation that we did. But they don't necessarily have been given the opportunity to have staff that are asking for it, per
They
se.
can do it, huh? I don't know, it's up to the board what you want to do.
I don't think in any means it's a Cadillac.
you don't?
program. I think, didn't you get a couple questions?
So the CityWorks ArcGIS combination would be considered the Cadillac. And that is used by large municipalities, and it is the model, I believe, that Oakland County is using to share with municipalities individually. And it has licensing fees are what are astronomical, because you have ArcGIS licensing fees, and you also have to be trained on how to utilize ArcGIS, or you'll be back in the same situation, hiring an engineer to do that portion of it for you.
This would work great for the wastewater plant. I've got hundreds of pages of prints that have been gone through since the plant has been built, and they're all shuffled up and written on, and sub-prints that the contractor has devised when they change something, and it just all jumbled together, maybe. And with this program here, we can actually take pictures of all that, and it's all stored, so it's easy access. And what Dwayne was talking about mirrors to the wastewater plant as far as preventive maintenance, inventory. That's all stuff that we can design on our own. And this program, from what I saw when we had the demonstration, it's very user-friendly. I mean, Blaine picked it up and used it right away. He caught on. It was amazing.
Cindy, if this interfaces with BSNA, how does that help our office staff? I know it helps water, I know it helps sewer, it helps DPW.
Well, then DPW can do a lot of the research on their own. They don't have to pick up the phone and call and say, can you look this up in BSNA, whatever, fill in the blank, what their
You mean
last-
call our front office?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't just an example. Everything will be at the fingertips of any user. I could be the user, and I can gather information. They could be the user and look up information. All of them will have access, and we can set the levels of read-only, or if they can do any type of other.
Does this help in any way our water billing? The billing aspect of it? Or is it just informational?
I'm not sure I
Click on
understand
it.
the question.
I click on an address, it tells me the water main size. Does this help streamline water billing, the quarterly water billing? Does
I-
this software in any way help that?
I'm unfortunately not too familiar with the
The
process.
issue I'm
so-
looking at is that if right now you're telling me that 3 departments, basically we're splitting this up, it's about $10,000 a department. I'm looking at spreading it across the cost of everybody. Does it help our office in any way other than?
Well, there will
just-
be cemetery management will also be included in it. And I'm not sure about the water billing, how.
So we can
what the-
avoid the issue we had with the one family that came in.
Absolutely.
We can track who owns a plot, we can track where those
Right.
plots are.
That is actually becoming an increasingly frustrating issue, not exactly knowing where lots are and what's available and having to do visits rather than being able to help the person right at the counter. That would be real helpful.
And also the biggest thing, I mean, it's important to you two guys in the two plants, but the DPW would really like to have all this information recorded someplace. And it's also good for misdigs. They spend a lot of time on misdig. Last year, I think we had 365 misdigs. They have to go out and identify them. When they do identify them, then if they put the data into the system, the next time we have to go to that area, we would know a lot more information.
You'd have a pin drop exactly where it was the last time you were out there, or,
I mean, that was what he demonstrated in the demonstration with a, what did he call it, a iPad or what, some kind of.
We had our account.
And Blaine put it to the test, you know, and they located that water main, that water shut off, and then they programmed it in, and
Right.
and Blaine did it all while we were talking. He wasn't even shown.
In reference to what you're talking about, Kurt, that each address, you'll know the pipe size, meter size.
Yeah, they explained that to us during their
Okay.
presentation. I look at the cost, and yeah, initially it looks like a lot, but doing what I do, I spend a lot on software. I know that some of the programs we use can be close to that amount for me to buy one single license. So it's not, it's the cost, but at the same time, again, I just want to make sure it's going to be utilized and it's going to make us more efficient. The
You-
best part about it is knowing the history in this township that we've had issues with. Your example, I've heard other stories. And unfortunately, that just goes to the character of people.
Right.
But hopefully this will make it easier, that there's actual history that's passed on, is one of my biggest, I guess, desires.
So moving forward, Herb, to address the meter issue, as technology advances, you guys have a meter replacement system already in place. The next phase of meters will not be a radio read. Everything will be cloud-based. You know, those meters will be rolling and sending the data up into the cloud. This system has the ability then to take the information from the cloud and assign it to that physical address and generate notices to customers if their water is being used at a higher rate than it was last month immediately. So that lady whose washing machine was running in her living room, or I'm sorry, in her laundry room, if she wasn't home, could have got a phone call if we use the technology that is going to be, it's available today, but we're just kind of behind the curve in our meter replacement program. But as the AMI technology is incorporated here, that will speak to the cloud can speak to our software and notify us, a homeowner, however we set it up.
and if I might add, you've got employees who are asking you to consider this versus asking them to do something. They're coming to you and asking you for this tool. You've got employee buy-in right at the outset.
I would think there's definitely an employee buy-in when you're showing them something to this stature also. So I can see that. And I'm reading about CityWorks here, and CityWorks is something like Larry was just talking about. It sounds like an integrate different communities to be integrated on the same line, at least the way I'm reading it right now. They have it for over 15 communities. It says they have online for 6 users. And again, I don't know if that's a possibility. I mean, this was brought to us without any prior information coming to it, without any research being done on it to let us know where we're coming from. Now some research is coming in, but yet we didn't have the paperwork that you have from those other communities, so we could possibly contact those communities and maybe get some answers that we need. And I'm just saying, right now, I just needed a little bit more information. I'm not saying it's a good system. I'm not saying it's great for the people to have it. All I'm saying is a little bit more information, again, what could possibly be out there to make your jobs easier and to continue to move forward, like you said. That's my only question.
So you're asking for more information as
No, the
to,
board can make a decision. I'm just saying that's just my decision and how I feel. But I'd like to see if City Work can implement 3 different communities at the tune of $60,000, and we put St. Clair and Marine City, it's $20,000.
Well, I'll tell you, your neighboring communities don't necessarily always like to buy into the same things you value. I know that we've approached St. Clair about interconnect on M29, but you're talking, I think it was $6,000, if I'm not mistaken, kind of a buy-in, and they didn't want any part of that.
Correct.
Something that definitely benefits both communities.
Correct, but until you ask that question, until you find out, they might be paying their engineers $25,000 a year right now, and if you approach them and say, we can do this for $15,000, would you be interested in it?
I looked into the City Works when I first took over the water plant. The licensing alone, I think, was $12,000, just to begin to use what you had purchased so many years ago to try to make it work to a usable tool, and that was 5 years ago. So I don't even know what the cost would be today for the licensing.
I have that in the quote, yes. If there's something more, I provided the City Works proposal that would be for our community.
so Angela, you're not saying no, you're just saying you want more information? Or
Again,
don't
I
want
just
to-
would like to see how other municipalities are handling this. I mean, it's, if everybody they're in the same situation that we're in, if they have a sewer plant and a water plant, what are they using?
Well, some are using
They're engineers.
their engineers, some are using Silversmith data, some are
And what is the
using...
cost to use your engineers? What is the cost to use the silver data?
Well, the Silversmith data quote is here, and our engineers charge us per hour, and I had not gotten a proposal for them to take over our GIS, but that would be, again, probably utilizing ArcGIS and an hourly fee.
Okay.
We would not buy the license necessarily, but again, we would not have our access to our data.
Okay.
All right, does somebody want to make a motion one way or the other, or do we want to table for more information, or we got to move forward on this? We can't sit here.
Now, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal to Empower for the agreed-upon price of $33,600.
Do we have a motion? Do we have support?
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported that we authorize to buy the Empower for $33,600 with a $3,600 annual fee. Does everybody understand the action? If so, roll call, please.
Well, Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Mr. Passalis,
No?
Mrs. Babel,
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock votes yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to new business item 3, Bridge to Bay Bike Trail Replacement Contract Award. We only got 2 quotes on that. Now, they're in your packet.
Larry,
believe-
are we talking about the 200 feet, or are we talking about going more than 200?
Well, we got that grant.
Right.
So he got a price by the foot, wasn't it? I believe it is here. Windstar was $80 per foot, Josh was 26.
Wow.
Did we question why this,
Yeah,
of,
that's quite a big difference.
yeah, it's a
That's a big
substantial
difference.
difference.
I have not communicated with the bidders. I thought it would be best for the board to take action on their prices, what they submitted.
And the Jelch is a local company, and the other one, I believe, was out of St. Clair Shores or something. And I think Jelch is quoting this price on doing the 1,420 feet.
I think the actual, he said it's somewhere between 12 and 1,400 feet, or the lineal feet is, what do I have here? We did this. Well, the budget number is 45,000. Estimated length of 2,000 feet.
Well, that 2816 at 1,420 feet, is that 45,000, or is it roughly?
Who was the contractor before?
Gels, I think, we used
Was-
before.
were they? Okay,
We've used them
Oh,
for the past 3 or 4 years.
okay.
Well,
This
it's
is a-
whatever.
Total rebuild from
Correct.
Recor to approximately, is it the-
They're giving us prices to go longer, though, like the Windstar says for our budget of $40,000, they will go approximately 500 linear feet. And Jelch is telling us for 39,000, they will go 1,420 feet. Did we want to go
Farther?
farther? I mean,
It's
do
something we
wanna do
haven't
that
done.
Because we can get a different break? I mean, is that something?
Something we
wanna do?
haven't done is the last year or so, we haven't even used our 25,000 because the weather closed in
Right.
on it and we didn't use it. So that 25,000 went into the fund balance. So we could use money out of that to do a larger section.
Right now, we have 20,000 from the foundation and 25,000 in this year's budget.
So we have 45,000.
There's no
Right.
need to pull any from any fund balance. We have a $45,000 project.
And Windstar's telling you for 40,000, they'll go 500 feet, and Jelch is telling you for 39,000, they'll go 1,420 feet. And that's still under our budget of 45.
Well, I think
well-
that's why we wanted to bid this out. We didn't want to tell them how much money we had so that we got the,
Right
and
there.
how many feet we're gonna do, but Blaine's gonna, he wanted it by the linear foot. How much will you do it by the foot? And I think what they got here is, the more you do, the cheaper you get it, which is the norm, you
Right,
know?
right.
So I would think we would want to do at least the, what'd you say, 1,000?
1420?
Yeah, 1,420 feet by 8 feet wide. I would think you'd want to do that at least. That's only 40 grand. And if we decide to do some more, we still have some more while they're doing it, you know?
Right. Where Windstar's want 40,000 for 500 lineal feet, so you're definitely better off with the Jelch.
Well, yeah, Jelch's always been, and they've done a great job for us.
Yes.
They're a local company
Right.
in China. Now, does somebody want to make a motion one way or the other? We got to do this or we lose the grant. I mean, we got to do something.
If they do the 1420, Larry, would they go from Recor Road 14, or can we break that up? They have to go 1420 continuous?
I don't know that.
The-
I would think you'd have to do a pretty good chunk.
The way that we applied for the grant, it was a continuous
Continuous, okay.
section. But Blaine did indicate if there's funding left over and we can find other locations to do some work that while they're out there, we might ask for them to do that.
Yeah, give them some more work in another spot, maybe, another $5,000 or $10,000 worth.
We would still have $5,000 left over if we went
Right.
with the Jelch at 1420, you still have 5,000 left over.
And if we had to add to that, to do a little bit more to finish it up to an intersection or something, I would be willing to do that. Well, we could do, the action required is, we could authorize the 45,000.
And just see how far they'll go.
Yeah, and well, we know we're gonna get it 1,100
Yeah.
or 1,420 feet. But if you only do 200 feet, the price almost doubles, you know. So why wouldn't, I would think we'd want to do that 1,420 feet. And that's 39,000, so we may end up doing like 1,200 feet or something like that. Or 15 or 1,600 feet.
I'll make a motion that we award Gels Paving for the cost, well, to use our, how can I put that? To use our 45,000 and to use it for the 1420 through Gels at 39,987, and ask Blaine to use the other 5,000 where he fits needed,
Where, as needed. Okay.
as needed.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a support to authorize Gels Contracting, Gel Paving to do up to $45,000 worth of work at the 2816 per lineal foot. I think I got that right. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Battle?
Yes.
Mr. Petsalas?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock, yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to new business, Resolution 2020 Budget Amendments, second quarter. We have several of them there. Debbie, would you want to read that resolution? Or is it with your mask?
Yeah, Resolution 11-2020, budget amendment, second quarter. Minutes of a regular meeting of the Township Board of Trustees of East China Township, County of St. Clair, Michigan, held in the Township Hall on the 17th day of August 2020 at 7:30 p.m. Present, whatever. The following resolution was offered by me?
Yes.
Okay. Deborah Badel, supported by, to adapt the following resolution. Whereas East China Township budgeting and accounting practices stipulate quarterly budget amendments to reflect financial activities during the quarter and provide the basis for financial controls in future quarters. And whereas financial analysis of all fund accounts indicates a need to amend the budgets for general fund accounts, the building fund, the 2013 ACAP bond expenditures, and the 2013 BCAP bond expenditures. Now therefore be it resolved that the East China Board of Trustees hereby approves budget amendments for the second quarter of 2020 as follows. General fund budget increase of $91,500, attorney $1,000 increase, unallocated $10,000 increase, other projects $500 increase, insurance and bonds $80,000 increase, building fund budget increase of $14,699, building inspection department $14,699 increase, 2013 ACAP bond expenditures increase of $110,500, Point Drive sanitary capacity $110,500 increase, 2013 BCAP bond expenditures increase of $236,000, Meisner pump rehab $2,500, transfer out sewer fund $233,500 increase, for a total budget amendment increase of $452,699.
I'll support that.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion or in a resolution to amend the 2020 budget, second quarter, in the sum of $452,699. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Battle?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock, yes. Mr. Simon?
Yes,
Mr. Petsalas?
Yes.
motion carries. We amend the budget. All right, moving on to item 6, discussion of resignation of Township Clerk Robert Freehand. As you know, I have the resignation of Mr. Freehand. He resigned. It's a copy of it is in your packet. What do we do now is the question. I sent you some information that I got from the MTA. I hope you looked at it as to what we're going to do. And to add to it too, in the interim, we have, the deputy clerk has resigned as of Friday afternoon, or Friday morning. And that has been accepted. I have a copy of the acceptance letter from the clerk Freehand on Friday. So we have, well, we still have a clerk, but we have no deputy. Without the clerk, we cannot conduct any checks being signed or anybody being paid, any bills. We're kind of in a dilemma. So I reached out to the MTA, and these are the things that they advised us that we could do, reading them and filling the vacancy, which is pretty much, if we accept the resignation, the clock starts ticking, we have 45 days. Well, without a deputy now, we can't wait 45 days, we got to get a clerk. I reached out to Mr. Freehand. He has agreed to stay on for short term and sign the checks and do the legal duties of the clerk's office for the short term. And I'm hoping that's not more than 2 weeks. So I think what we have to do as a board is we've got to try to find another clerk in that time frame. But thank you to Mr. Freehand for, volunteered to stay on for a few days. So what does the board want to do? Where are we at?
Well,
Deb?
you just told us what we have to do.
You ran for clerk a little while ago. Would you want to fill in for that? I think Mr. Freehand also said he would work with you and try and help you out and guide you through it. And we could try and find a deputy to help you out.
Right at this time, I really don't want to get into all that.
Okay.
Trustee is about as what I can handle right now.
Yeah, the clerk is a big job.
Yes, it is.
Probably the biggest job in the township is the clerk, to do the job.
Is there a certification process that's required?
It has to be
Maybe some
certified.
training?
You have to attend a class. I think it's 3 days to get certified but you have to attend these classes to get
But is
certified.
it on demand, or is that scheduled?
I
We're gonna
don't
run
know
into
that.
the
I
same
don't-
issue we ran into.
I don't know when they
4
run
years
those
ago.
classes.
Same issue we had 4 years ago.
Or a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the same thing 2 years ago, and Mr. Freehand, he couldn't get certified in time for the 18 election, so that's when we got Wendy Meldrum. She was certified from Clay Township, and we hired her to run the election. It's not only the election, it's the clerk's duties that we have to have, and just a small part of it is signing the checks to keep the township running financially, but there's a lot of other clerk work that has to be done. The other thing is, is the employees, what we're going to do, and Cindy has given you an update of where we're at with what we're doing in the office. We also had another, we've got another vacancy in the office, and, as to filling that, I'm recommending that we fill the part-time position again, but we're going to leave it up, not leave it up to, but wait till we see what we get here when we do this, these job descriptions and go through those. So I think in the interim, I think we're probably going to need somebody down the road to get more help for the office. We had 4 there, now we're down to 3, but I think Cindy's studying this right now. She's got a plan here, as you can read, what's going on. The other thing, maybe we want to look at analyze in the office, maybe do some kind of, I don't know, where they do, see what everybody's doing, and do we have enough help, or to analyze, analyze what everybody's doing in the office? Do we need more people? Do we need less people? Where are we at? I don't know. I don't think we've ever done that. I know there were some other things that they want to do studies. Is there people out there that do that, Cindy? That analysis of our staff, of what we have?
A work study? I'm not sure.
Not a work study.
Staffing study? I'm not familiar with it, but
No.
I wouldn't know where to begin.
Well, I
I'd
would
have to
think
reach
maybe
out.
that's one of the things we can do when we're looking into all this, to go down that road.
Larry, I think at this time, our priority is to get ourselves a clerk.
That
Get
is.
ourselves a
correct.
deputy. We can worry about the office staff person at a later date. But I think at this point, the board has to come up with a clerk that is registered, that can handle some election, that he has to be a resident, correct?
The clerk will have to be a
Have
resident.
to be a resident. So,
So anybody out
and
there
then
that
once they
wants to
come in,
be
they
the
can get, I
clerk.
mean, we have an election, about 6 weeks, they're gonna be coming in with absentee ballots. So, I mean, if anybody on the board knows of somebody that is interested in, or, I mean, we can call a special meeting. I mean, my own opinion at this point is I don't think we should accept the resignation, because if we do, the clock starts ticking at 45 days. Mr. Freehand said we have a couple weeks, so hopefully we can find somebody within 2 weeks. We can call a special meeting, we find him in the
If
middle.
we find somebody beforehand,
And then
call
we'll
a
accept his
meeting.
resignation at that time and also appoint a new clerk at that point. He did say he would stay on and help us for a couple weeks, so it does give us a little bit of time. But I hate for the clock to start ticking right now when we don't have any,
Well, once
anything.
we accept it, then we have no clerk.
we have no clerk, and we have no deputy at this point, so they can't sign any checks. So thankfully, Bob did say he'd stay on, at least help us for those 2 weeks, and then.
Well, he
if
said a
anybody-
short term, he didn't
Short
say
term,
2
yeah.
weeks, but I'm saying I don't want it to be more than
Right.
2 weeks. If we could do it in a week, find somebody, get out there and,
Is it possible to find out when this certification class is?
I guess I could call the county clerk, yes.
I mean, 'cause that'll,
Are they
that'll
open?
make a difference too. I mean, if somebody can't take the classes,
I don't think they're open to do anything like that yet.
Yeah, I don't know if they're running with COVID-19. I don't know I don't know. But that's something we're gonna have to check. I mean, I can check on those things.
unless you find somebody that's already certified, you're going to have to find
That's,
somebody that can
that's
be
the ultimate, to
certified.
find somebody that's certified, that's willing to be the clerk, that is a resident.
Okay.
Tall order, so. But I think as a board that we should all look for this clerk. It shouldn't fall on my shoulders or your shoulders, it should be the board as a whole. If you can reach out, and I'm reaching out to all the residents, if anybody wants to be the clerk and wants to learn how to do that, please get a hold of my office or call my cell phone, or get a hold of any board member. We're looking for somebody to be the clerk, and we can't wait a long time, and what would happen is the board would appoint the person to fill the vacancy of the clerk until, I believe it's November 20th after the election. So we're looking for somebody for just 3 months. So I guess we do no action on the clerk right now would be, is that what your suggestion, Andrew?
I would say table it till the next meeting. I mean, we have 2 weeks till the next meeting, but again, I thank Bob Freehand for helping us out at this point. But like you said, we need to find somebody as soon as possible so we can continue to pay our employees and get the checks and pay our bills. Because without a deputy also,
Well, I'd like to get it done before the 2 weeks. I think that should be our
Right.
goal, to get it done.
So I'll make a motion that we table this till the next meeting, not accept the resignation at this time. Thank Bob for his service and for all he's done for our township, and hopefully within the next week. And like we said, if we find somebody, we'll have a special meeting and come in and we'll accept his resignation at that time and appoint a new clerk.
I agree and support.
All right, we have a motion and we have a support to table this resignation at this time, because we're not prepared to really act on it. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to new business, item 6, clerk election pay.
I can share this with you.
I'll give you, Cindy, do you want me to give the background on that, or do you?
Well, I'm giving the item right now.
Okay.
It explains, it was brought to my attention in the past, $150 was paid to the clerk for each election day served, worked. In October, a resolution established the clerk compensation but made no reference to the added pay. And there are minutes back in 1984 and 1987 which indicate adding $150. And at the time of the May election of last year, payroll asked if we should be paying that, and I asked for reference as to what would provide that authority. We were unable to find any at the time. It has resurfaced since we recently had another election, and we have another one coming up. And we did do a little further digging, and at this point, I think it should be the board that makes some sort of determination so that we can have that on record for the payroll clerk to either pay or to not.
Does everybody understand what's going on here? Or is- We've been doing this for years, but evidently either the documentation got misplaced or we didn't have any. We checked way back in the payroll, and it's been done for quite a while.
Well, the documentation is from 1984 and 1987.
Right.
But several compensation changes have been made to the salary since then. So we just want affirmation that the board wants that to continue or not.
Do you remember that, Angelo, on the,
No.
in 19?
When did this issue come up? When was this issue, when did this come up?
Back in
Came up a year
May
ago.
of 19.
What I'm saying, why wasn't this in our packet? Why is it coming to us right now?
It was just brought to my attention after the packets were mailed out.
This was one of
Because we were doing
the
payroll for August, and
issues.
the payroll clerk does it monthly. So the August election just occurred a week and a half ago.
Is this something that has to be acted on today?
Not necessarily, it's up to the board.
No, it doesn't have to be today.
Well, again, I mean, they have letters back here, there's things to do, I mean, to
Yeah.
read it and
Yeah, this doesn't have to be
condition,
done
I mean, if it
today.
doesn't have to be, if it doesn't have to be acted on today, I would like to table this so we can review it and look at it and go through some notes and see what I have down
Okay.
and see what we have available. But if it's something that we have been doing,
Well, we did it up until the present clerk
We're
asked
just
for it.
looking for direction. So the payroll bookkeeper asked, should she pay this clerk? And I asked for some sort of reference that would give us that background as to why it's being done. And I do have that here. So if the board wants to continue that, I just maybe would like to see an updated, either a motion or some sort of reference that we should do that. And it did come up because we do August payroll, it's coming up. We don't have to do that. We could, if the board decides to implement that in the next monthly payroll.
And I think what it was given for, Ange, is it's a long dang day that you spend here. It's just for that day. I mean, they're here 5 o'clock in the morning until sometimes midnight. But that's why I asked, I mean, you were at that board when they authorized that. But you want to go back and look at your things, and I found another way I was told where it might be placed, and we'll have to look there too. So that's probably a good idea to table it until we get a little more information.
so since 2005, the clerk has not received that $150, but prior to 2005, they have. Is that what
I
we're saying?
can't answer that question. This came up based on.
No, I believe they were
current
getting it.
situation.
But we can check through payroll and find out what checks were given in 2005 and see. Well, when was the last general election? Was 18? Governor? A primary election, it's a primary, isn't it?
Is it
Not a
every
primary, a general.
It's possible that it has just been always given without question, but, you know, when I come in and I see things and question them, it's just to be fiduciary to the township and make sure we have all our records up to date.
Do we show any checks that were written to them, to the clerks for $150
That's what
in the
we'll look,
past?
that's
or
what we can look in payroll.
Can we look that up in payroll and see if they've been receiving, like the Gary Arnold and what's the other guy's name?
Greg Town,
Greg Town?
D. Cram.
D. Cram, if we can just go back and see, if in the check register, was there something,
I believe we
compensation for
can,
them?
can't we check that through payroll?
I'm sure they can.
I'm sure we can, yeah.
So you're looking for a historical of how often
Well,
it
if we've
was-
been doing it, we should continue doing it. I don't see no reason
And
why
I
we
believe
shouldn't.
that that is the case, but the onus is not on the bookkeeper to be the authority to pay, and so I think we're looking for that
That's why
direction.
she's asking for the resolution to do this.
We have a new bookkeeper, so things come up, she asks. We have a new township manager, things come up, I ask. So
Yeah.
we're just always looking for concrete records and making sure that we're doing things as they should.
So is that what you want to do? Motion to table, Angela?
Well, I would just like to see if we've been doing this in the
Well-
past, and if Cindy says we've been doing it in the past, and I'm sure she probably knows that, then we just continue to do it.
Have any input, Debbie or Herb?
No, I agree with Angela. If we've been doing it, keep doing it.
Yeah. No, that's what we wanted to do here tonight, was to keep doing it, but we need documentation through the resolution to do it. But we can wait till the next week, the next board meeting, and then do it then too, but.
I don't think you would need a resolution. It's been done as a motion in the past. But I would suggest that you set a sundown on it for however you can keep track, so that you've got, if you do it annually, it might be a good idea, type of thing. So that
Oh, you mean do it
annually,
every year, authorize it? Or it wouldn't be every year,
Because
because
you
we don't have a
can't-
general election every year.
right, on the as-needed basis is what I would suggest, only because you can't bind a future board to a decision in a motion,
Right.
but you could in a resolution. If you want to go with a resolution, that's up to you. I don't think it's necessary.
Well, you mean, we could just authorize it for this general election, and,
You could retroactively for the primary as well as the upcoming election. And then next year, if there's an election, authorize it for all the elections of that annual. And we would just, it's an
so
option
we
to
would
do it
just
that way.
be authorizing, if we did it tonight, would just be for the primary that we had,
Elections in 2020.
and then the elections in 2020. Okay.
That is my suggestion, otherwise you're getting into a resolution that's binding.
This resolution that we have here that's in front of us doesn't state anything about the $150. It
It
basically
doesn't,
states
no.
what his salary is.
That's why I asked if you remember anything about what happened with that.
Wait, it just says that they have a salary that they have coming
And you
for.
gave them that raise,
Do we find any documentation that has that they should receive $150 for working that day?
Well,
Do we
these-
check it?
These are the minutes from 1984, 1987, where it was initially introduced. And at that time, the salary was $2,468. Resolutions have been subsequently passed which rescind all subsequent, or all former resolutions. And when I see that, if there's no indication that there's additional pay, then it has to be done separately.
All right, so that was in 1984. I wasn't on that board.
no, you were on the one in 05.
Yeah, I was on the one that okayed that's what I'm saying, I was on the one that okayed the pay, but I wasn't back in 1984 about the 150.
I just did some verbal checking, and they think it went back into the 80s talking to some past clerks that got it. You could maybe check with Gary and see if I know he got it because I had this discussion with past Supervisor Randolph.
It was
and he told
introduced
me
in
that he gets that.
1984. It was introduced in 1984. It was amended in 1987 to include other special elections.
So all we would be committing to right now would be to approve for the elections, the two elections in 2020, if we decide to go that way or we want to wait.
If you know that Gary got it, Larry, and
I'm positive he got it.
then we'll continue to do it.
So want to just make a motion to do it for just, like Cindy said, we don't want to tie the next board's hands into this, but let's just make it to the 2020 elections. There's only two of them.
Okay, so go back to August
Yeah, we'd
for
be
for
talking
Bob,
to-
and then for the other one,
And then the
whoever the
future,
clerk
yeah,
may
so
be.
we're looking at $300 here, which I
Yep.
think.
I'll make a motion that we pay the clerk $150 for the primary election that was held on August 4th, 2020, and for the November election also.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion, we have support to authorize the $150 payment for the elections in 2020, which was August 4th and November, whatever, the 2nd. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Petsalas?
Yes.
Ms. Babel?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock, yes.
Motion carries. That completes our new business announcements. Really don't have any announcements at this time. Member comments, Mr. Pasalis.
I don't have anything this evening, Larry, thank you.
And Mr. Blackstock.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Babel. I just like to say thank you to Bob again, too, and I wish him the best as what he does from here on out. He's been a great clerk, done a great job for us, and we'll move on from there. And everybody stay safe with the COVID-19 around. So that completes the member comments. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 9:46.
Support.
We have a motion, we have a support to adjourn the meeting, 9:46. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned, thank you.